Hi everyone, this is Kay Gale's daughter for Grail Maiden. This is your new moon reading for January 5th, 2019. If you hear any honking outside, I've moved to where there is traffic, so I apologize for that if you do end up hearing it. And this is going to be just a recorded reading from me as opposed to a narrated reading, which I'm going to be doing for each of the signs and uploading those today. The reason is because for this month, I really needed to do what comes most naturally, which was write. And just because the energies are so kind of changeable in this new moon and the eclipse, the partial solar eclipse, along with later in the month, having the full moon and basically the wolf moon is going to be pretty intense as well. So with that, I just thought I channel best when I'm writing, so I would go ahead and do the monthly readings, channeling that in writing and then again narrating it. So at least this way you can see the difference as well between when I just go ahead and do it off the cuff, like I did last month, or when I'm narrating. So again, please let me know what you prefer or which resonates better for you. And I'll see if I can go ahead and do it the best way in the future that everybody responds best to. But anyway, getting to the reading, I decided to use the Golden Tarot for both the main position and the ancillary position, just because it seemed like the right thing to do, just according to the energies. This is a beautiful deck by Cat Black. And it's very medieval inspired, very medieval and Renaissance inspired, which of course goes with my background. So I tend to really love it more than a lot of other ones, even though I do love the more modern tarot decks as well. But I think for this particular reading, being in January and just coming off of the holidays, we needed something a little bit more rarefied. And so this is the deck that I thought I would choose for both of the cards. Normally I use the Healing Light Tarot for the advice or ancillary card, but this one is all by Cat Black. So in the main position is the Strength card, Major Arcana. In the ancillary or advice position is the Nine of Cups, Minor Arcana. This is something that is very indicative of the kind of energies that are happening right now. You may be noticing that there's a shift going on. In doing all of the readings for this month, for all of the different astrological signs, it is really going to be bizarre in certain moments, especially between now and the full moon. There is just a lot happening energetically, and you might even notice that all of a sudden you feel like you've been switched to a different timeline. Now, in quantum physics, it's known that there are multiple dimensions. There have to be multiple dimensions for certain realities to be true. And this is especially true in science. I mean, if you're going with string theory or other kinds of scientific theory, in string theory, I believe there are 11 different dimensions that have to exist for string theory to be true. But as all of us know who are very spiritually minded, and this is true also in quantum physics among several of the scientists, really there are infinite numbers of realities in just this vast infinite number of timelines. Every choice you make has the potential to put you onto a different timeline, which is why you always want to be as positive as you can so that you can switch to a higher resonance, so that the vibration is always higher. You might notice that when energies are particularly intense and changeable, there's almost a vortex that opens where you have the opportunity to jump to a different timeline, like an electron jumping to a different energy level. This is especially true when cycles are ending and then beginning in a new cycle, because where you are when the cycle comes to an end, whatever choice you make about the ending of that cycle will determine what timeline your subconscious and your unconscious, meaning the collective unconscious and your connection with it, will then jump to. So always be really cognizant of the choices that you make. This is one of the reasons why meditation is so important, because if you have some kind of meditation. It can even be a walking meditation. It doesn't have to just be sitting in one place and trying to clear your head and trying, even doing the basic candle meditation, which is one of the simplest and most pure ones to do if you have been involved in a bunch of complex practice and you're just done with it. But even walking meditation, even being in a Zen place doing the dishes, I mean, there's always a way in which you can touch base with yourself and live in the moment and realize what thoughts are going through your mind and labeling them as such. You are not your thoughts. Your thoughts do help determine energy, but you as a soul are not your thoughts, which is why it's so important to know that when you have a thought, it's like the minor arcana. You have a choice as to how you want to respond to it. Thoughts, yes, are things. Yes, they do manifest, and they do carry energy. But if you can take a step back and look at them for what they are, and then make a choice that is very balanced and even from a very settled, very calm core place, they don't have to have as much of an impact on you, especially if they're negative for whatever reason. If you're beating up on yourself, if you're really, really hard on yourself for whatever reason, if you're really hard on others even, that can carry a certain energy, and it sometimes can be incredibly negative. But if you feel yourself doing that, and you stop and isolate that thought and take a look at it, which really helps with meditation to be able to do, you can then make a decision about it and say, you know what, that thought was bullshit. It's not going to serve me. Okay, next. That's really powerful to be able to do that, because you can look at that energy and realize, no, I don't want to attach that to me. I don't want to attach that as energy to my being because it'll weigh me down, or it will just make things more difficult if I want to ascend to a higher energy level or to basically resonate at a higher vibration. You can make a decision about the thoughts that you choose to entertain. You can either entertain them and hold on to them for however long, or you can release them and let them go. Now, the reason why this is important, again, is because we've got some intense energy portals that are going to be very powerful. The main thing is, don't freak out, because if you feel like things are just weird, they're just bizarre, you're in the twilight zone, don't worry, that's happening for everybody. Just look at it like you would like an outsider watching television, basically, if you can, and step outside of any judgment that you have of the energy. Be able to see it, take it for what it is. If anything, try to just, have fun with it and laugh with it, because the thing about it too is that you can have incredible manifesting power when energy is like this. It's opening up doorways, and it may feel strange and bizarre because you're just not used to the energy. Some of these portals are incredibly powerful and they're incredibly positive, but they just may feel weird because you're not used to it. So just understand, if you are feeling weirdness, it's okay. I mean, even the most evolved of us go through periods where we feel absolute weirdness. And I'm not saying that I'm one of the most evolved. I'm just saying anyone who is incredibly evolved is still in a human body, is still seeing things through a human lens of perception, is still growing and advancing. Even the most advanced continue to grow and change. And so if you didn't feel weirdness, at some point or another, you wouldn't be human. I mean, yes, you are a soul residing in a human body, but as long as we are in the human body, you've got to give yourself a little credit and have a little patience with yourself for going through something that is an incredibly deep and powerful and visceral experience. I mean, we still have in our system embedded a fight or flight response that is so powerful because we haven't evolved past it yet. This is one of the reasons why when people get angry or, they become afraid, why all of a sudden things become so heightened and they become so angry and so ready to do that fight or flight mechanism. It's just because that's a part of our evolution that we haven't yet mastered. We still have that immediate animal instinct to either fight or flee. And That will take some time, but one of the things that really does help, again, is meditation, to be able to take a moment to breathe and see what is happening with your body, why you're feeling that flush response, why you're feeling maybe some of the emotions you're feeling, the fear or the excitement or the panic or just the weirdness or anything else, and being able to look at it and not judge it. Because if you don't judge it necessarily, then you can let it pass. If you do judge it, in a sense, you're hanging on to it. You're putting energy into it. And sometimes you don't want to do that, especially if it's negative. So anyway, here I am going off on all of this, but I think the main thing is just with these energies, have patience with yourself. Don't beat yourself up for anything right now, because people, events, things happening in the world are just going to be weird. Things are going to be looking pretty extreme in certain ways, both on the microcosm of the personal level and the macrocosm of the larger level, the wider, more kind of universal level. And that's because things are shaking up. It's like the big washing machine of life. I mean, things are shaking up and getting rinsed and getting cleaned, and that is necessary to have a certain degree of chaos for that to happen. Out of chaos can come creation, as the old Asian wisdom says. So if there is chaos, that means that there's something really new that's ready to be born, and the detritus is supposed to fall away. So again, with this time period, as bizarre as it may get, just realize it's shaking things up so the right things can stay and the wrong things can shake out and be eliminated, basically. So anyway, with that being said, there is incredible potential for things that are positive if you stay strong and centered. That's why the Strength card is here. And that's also why you see the infinity symbol over the divine feminine figure with the lion. Because if you have that higher consciousness at the same time that you're living your everyday life, and you're able to stay centered within your core being, within your soul, and you're able to see the things that are happening and say, oh, okay, that's pretty bizarre, that's interesting, I don't necessarily like that. Okay, maybe I do like this part, but I don't like that part, or whatever kinds of immediate impulses come through, you're able to evaluate them. There is a big difference between evaluation and discernment and judgment. Judgment means that you are foisting energy upon that particular thought. It's not just evaluating it, discerning whatever truth may come out of it, taking from it what you need to learn something. If you're making a judgment about it, you are actively foisting energy upon it. So always try to remember the difference between discernment and judgment, because strength here is in the discernment. It's not in the judgment. Strength here is about being able to look at everything with as clear a lens of perception as possible, being as true to yourself as you can be, resonating from that place, that core center within you, where there are still waters. And if you're not feeling that, do whatever it takes to get to that calm center. It's like in the Wheel of Fortune again, and as I've said before, the hub of the wheel. If you're in the hub of the wheel, you're not going to feel the torque, you're not going to feel the massive amount of movement as you go up and down and swirl around like you're on a merry-go-round. If you're at the hub, there's the least amount of movement there. It's like the calm eye of the hurricane. So if you can be in that place, that is where you will find your strength, and it will be as pure as it can possibly be, being in a human body. Try to get to that place, because if you can, you will be able to see the openings where you can absolutely walk through them. You can make choices from that calm place that are going to give you the greatest happiness and fulfillment. And because the portals that are opening right now are so numerous, you really do have the opportunity to jump an energy level or to jump to a new timeline. It is going to completely depend upon your energy and where you are allowing yourself to be, because your actions based on your thoughts And based on your emotions, what you choose to do or what you choose to believe is going to determine everything. Whatever happens to you, but it's how you react. So if you can react in the best possible way, in the most illuminated way, in the most resonant way that resonates with who you are as a soul, you will only have a higher and higher vibration. And as comes in with the ancillary card, the Nine of Cups, this is about you being fulfilled within yourself. You cannot have fulfilling relationships with other people, as fulfilling as they possibly could be, unless you yourself is as whole as you can be. It's because we can't look for other people to fill us or other situations to fill us if we're empty. We need to find whatever it is to make ourselves whole within ourselves. That includes the kind of divine love that you have for yourself. You are a part of the divine. The divine is a part of you. If you can find that divinity within yourself and realize that you are an absolutely necessary part of the whole, if you can understand that you're here in your specific form, in this specific moment, in this timeline for a reason, and perhaps it's to make a particular choice, you will always be able to choose certain things. You will always be able to choose how you want to react. So again, these cards are saying, with all this energy going on, with all of these portals opening, with the vortices that are just swirling around, and especially this month, choose the trajectory you want to take. Choose the direction. Choose the resonance. Choose the kind of vibration that you want to have. And if you know that and you internalize it, you will naturally and even subconsciously move toward it. But you have to know what that is within yourself, in your core being. Your subconscious and who you are as a soul will always know that. But it's our conscious thoughts and our consciousness that can sometimes be the issue, because we have that going on at the same time in this human body, in this human reality, at the same time that our soul is connected with Source. So sometimes the information from the two can be conflicting. That's one of the reasons why sometimes the law of attraction does not work when it should, or we think it should, because if your soul knows something, your consciousness has to be aligned with that. If your consciousness is not aligned with that, then you're going to have a harder time manifesting the things that are for you. So again, the most important thing is always to try to be as centered as you can, and always try to find that inner strength. And from a place where, again, you don't level judgment at thoughts and things and ideas and people, but you have a sense of discernment as to what you think, how you feel about it, without casting judgment upon it. There are always going to be bad things that happen in life. There are always going to be shitty people. And that judgment about that only reinforces the negative energy, and it only attaches you to that negative energy if you are casting intense judgment. You want to separate yourself from that, have discernment, realize, okay, that person or that situation is not for me, or I need to take action to change this energy in some way, add to a better energy, do something that will make things more positive instead of negative. That is going to be essential, especially this year. There are going to be all kinds of things going on, all kinds of chaos in this world. The more that you can steer your trajectory toward the things that are really, really resonant with you on a positive level, the more it will have a positive effect, not just on you, but on others. Because people affect others' resonances. It's like alchemy. You can't have a bunch of elements mixed together without them reacting in some way. That is why it is so important to always try to be as centered as you can, as even as you can, and again, have discernment without casting judgment. It's a tough call, I know, because I am not perfect at this at all. I am very much the Viking Celt. I tend to have an icy mind but a fiery blood, so very much kind of toward my Icelandic heritage, which is the land of fire and ice. So when I get riled up, I definitely get riled up, and I have to calm myself down, and instead of just jumping to conclusions or jumping toward a particular action, like the Aquarius I am, I've got to sit there and not necessarily think about it, but try not to think about it, feel it out, let the immediate emotions pass, and then have discernment about the situation and try to figure out what the right action is to take, or try to see what the right feeling is to give energy to. That can be sometimes the key. And for Aquarians, to not think is a really bizarre feeling, but I will tell you, it's a relief. So that's again why I'm, this very pro-meditation kind of person. But anyway, I've spoken too long, but this is also a good introduction to all of the astrological signs. So check your sun, moon, and ascending signs and check out those readings to see what fits and what doesn't. And again, only take what resonates for you. The rest of it, these are general readings, and I know every reader tries to reiterate that, but I think sometimes people just are really disappointed if something doesn't resonate. If it doesn't resonate, it just means that that reading isn't for you at this particular point in time, and there's nothing personal about that. It's just, you get the information that you get, and you relay the information that you get because it's supposed to help someone, or it's supposed to be resonant for certain groups of people, perhaps. That's why sometimes it's good to have private readings with the reader you really identify with, because if you get a private reading, this is just directed solely for you. Otherwise, the general readings can resonate, and sometimes they're not going to. But anyway, if you would like a personal reading with me, it's usually much more directed, and it's not flying all over the place. It is very, very pointed and specific. Just because I can read very specifically, and I get very specific information when it comes to the particular person. When it comes to a general population, it's almost necessary to kind of take things out of the microcosm and bring them a little bit more into the macrocosm and have things be overarching and more general, because the general messages can sometimes help more people. So if you're doing private readings, you can absolutely focus in. So anyway, I hope this finds everyone well, and I hope that this will be an extraordinary new year for you. And again, thanks for being here, and I will see you next time.